Welcome back to Sports Scene here on 101 FM. It's 5 minutes past 9. Kevin Braysher here with you, along with Darren Madigan, the founding father of Sports Scene, from the QRL, Mr. Ethan James, Hall of Famer from the AFL Queensland Hall of Famer, Mr. Craig Crowley, and joining us on the line, he drives V8 Supercars for Team BOC, that's Brad Jones Racing, and he's just come back from the LeMans 24-hour racing with 8-Star Motorsport. Mr. Jason Bright, welcome to Sports Scene.
Good morning, guys.
Thank you very much for being here with us, mate. We really appreciate it, mate. You've achieved plenty in your career, but last week you did something for the first time, something you hadn't done before. You've completed the Le Mans 24 hours. Mate, please tell us about the experience.
It was a huge experience. You know, something I wanted to do for quite a while, and you know, because of our busy schedule, it's sort of very difficult to get over there and do it. But you know, finally got to achieve that last week. It was a great experience, but also a pretty sad one at the same time because we lost a mate, Alan Simonson, on the same day, and it put a pretty huge damper on what was a great weekend. You know, when I should have been enjoying my debut race at Le Mans, but you know it was still a great experience, but you know not good that we lost a mate.
G'day, Jason. Darren Madigan here, mate. Alan Simonson, what is it like? I mean, obviously, you guys in the V8 Supercar fraternity have known Alan for a long time. He raced in a number of categories also here in Australia, not just the V8 Supercars. But you didn't start the race, and the accident happened very early on in the piece. So was it harder to deal with knowing that you had a mate you've lost, plus you weren't in the car keeping your mind on the job in the car? You actually had time to think about what had happened. How do you deal with that?
Well, actually, funny enough, I was actually in the car. There was a timing issue, and I did actually do the first couple of laps of the race. And when I got out of the car, I asked the team whether Alan was okay, because I could see that I felt as though they were working on someone, you know, near the car, and they said he got out okay. The first reports were that he got out of the car. You know, and then it wasn't until I got back in, did my next stint, which was for 3 hours, and I got out of the car and someone said that Alan passed away. And the most difficult part was getting back in the car or you know, getting through the rest of the night, sleeping, trying to sleep, and you know, trying to do the last 18 hours when you know that, you know, a friend had lost his life in that same race. You know, we've had deaths in motorsport, and it's, you know, it's part of the game. I've never had someone in the same race. I've never had someone, you know, so close to me pass away, and you know, certainly not in the same race, and have to continue racing on in the same race, let alone for another 18 hours. That was, you know, it's quite unique. So you know, it was definitely a tough day. You know, Alan was a good friend of ours, and a good friend of everyone in the V8 Supercar community. You know, he was close to a lot of Australians.
Sure. While we're on the subject of Alan, I understand Team BOC will be paying tribute to him later in the season.
Well, everyone will. All the teams will be next weekend. We're all running stickers at Townsville next weekend, but Team BOC in particular, and everyone at Brad Jones Racing will be running stickers during the Enduros. You know, we already run a sticker for our mate Jason Richards, who passed away at the end of 2011. You know, who used to drive Team BOC Commodore, and you know, we're going to run a similar tribute to Alan Simonson for the Enduro this year.
Yeah, I think it'll be a wonderful thing to see too. I'm a Townsville boy myself, and one thing I know about Townsville is they're massive supporters of big sporting events, and I think they'll get right behind you on that. Just on the subject of the race itself, you've obviously you guys were going really well there. There was obviously a chance of a big result, but tell us about the puncture. It's a long way home from there, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it was a bit of a shame. You know, I certainly went there expecting that, you know, knowing that we're in contention for a podium, if not a win in our class, and you know, the time certainly proved that. You know, we were looking pretty good up to that point, and then got a puncture on the back straight just after one of the restarts, and the circuit of Le Mans is 13 kilometres long. So, you know, even halfway around, you've still got 6 or 7 kilometres to do with a flat tyre, and I was going as slow as I could to try and get back to the pits without losing too much time, just even getting back there. And by the time I got back to the pits and the tyre had completely delaminated and it had taken off half of the rear end of the car. It took around 40 minutes to repair the damage just from what the tyre had done, flapping around, damaging the rear of the car. So it put us out of contention. Normally there's quite a high attrition rate at Le Mans. Everyone has their similar issues and incidents, and you sort of usually pick up some of those spots back. But unfortunately, we were probably one of the only ones that had an issue of that size, and we sort of stayed that same amount down. It was quite a shame. At that point, we were like I said, we were looking pretty good. For the rest of the race, we had probably as good or better pace than anyone else in the GTE and class.
Yep.
We lost so much ground at that point.
There's the track has changed a bit down through the years. I know the greats like Derek Bell and that have been quite critical of the chicanes that went in years ago on the Mulsanne Straight. You still get up to some pretty frightening speeds. They give us an idea of what the Ferrari was doing down Mulsanne.
Well, the top speed-wise, it's not ridiculous. We actually do higher speeds at Bathurst in the V8 Supercar, but we're still doing 295 kilometres an hour down the straights at Le Mans. But the amazing part is you're doing 290 kilometres an hour for close to a minute and a half per lap. That sort of, and the average speed is extremely high. So it's sort of. It's just a very, very quick track.
Serious engine breaker?
Whereas just sort of four or five straights just in a row, that you're getting up to 290 kilometres an hour, and then the rest of the lap's just high speed corners. So it's pretty amazing track.
Yeah. Is any more? Sorry, go on, Kevin.
I was just going to reset, mate. Listening to Sports Scene here on 101 FM, 13 minutes past 9. Kevin Braysher, Darren Madigan, Ethan James, Craig Crowley, all with you. We're currently talking to Jason Bright, V8 Supercar driver for Team BOC, and he's telling us about his experience at the Le Mans 24-hour last week racing with 8 Star Motorsports. Darren. Jason,
the World Endurance Championship, you going to have any more opportunities in that, or is the Le Mans driver one-off?
We'll see how we go. I mean, the team have got a couple of other races this year that they'll need a third driver for, and I've got my hand up. But it sort of depends on what sort of pans out for them. They've got a guy that'll step in for a couple of those if he's available for all of them in the end. Then it sort of suits them to sort of keep the same guy in there the whole year. But I'd certainly more racing that I'd like to do. They also race in Grand Am in the US and do the Daytona 24 hours, and hopefully I'll get the call up a couple more times. It was pretty special to get the call up for their biggest race of the year, which was Le Mans. Hopefully I'll get to drive it a couple more times.
Jason, do you still harbour ambitions? I mean, you raced in Indy Lights quite successfully. You had a one-off drive in the Champ Cars at Surfers Paradise, and you were unlucky in that race. I mean, do you harbour ambitions still to race overseas?
There's certain races. I mean, obviously, when I was sort of doing Indy Lights and trying to get an IndyCar, I was focusing very hard on trying to get an IndyCar drive and using that to sort of springboard potentially to F1.
Yep.
Those ambitions have changed a little bit, but there's still races on my bucket list that I'd like to do, and Le Mans was certainly one of those.
Yeah.
Also on the bucket list is races like Daytona 24 Hours that, they're world-class events that have got a lot of prestige to them, and I'd love to go over and do those. But as far as using international events to springboard to something else, I'm not in that position anymore, but there's still some events on my bucket list I'd love to do.
Fair enough. Let's turn our attention to next weekend up here in Townsville. And mate, how are things going for Team BOC this year and yourself?
Oh, they've been good. The car of the future, which was introduced at the start of this year, has been great for our team. There's no doubt that our results this year have been better than the last couple of years. We probably had more to gain from Car of the Future than a lot of teams. The equipment that we were using was probably some of the older stuff in the field, and we certainly leapt up the field at the start of this year, and we've had some good results. So, and it's also provided pretty good racing for everyone. We've seen different winners. Last year we saw the same 4 cars win every single event, and it sort of became a little bit boring for the fans, I reckon.
Yeah.
But this year we've seen different winners, and some very good racing because of Car of the Future, and that's been a great thing for V8 Supercars. Probably a little bit of a surprise to even V8 Supercars that it's mixed things up so much well.
Yeah.
So much.
Can I ask you something about the Car of the Future? We've got the DTM talking about moving into America in 2015, which means their footprint's going to be quite large. And we look at the Car of the Future, we look at manufacturers leaving Australia in terms of manufacturing cars here. How long do you think Australia can stay on its own in this economic environment? And do you think maybe down the track we need to look at a single touring car formula for most of the world?
Well, there's no doubt it's become harder over the last 10, 20 years for car manufacturers, and everyone's penny pinching, and motor racing is a marketing exercise which usually gets cut first, and we sort of copped that hit back in 2008 during the GFC, and manufacturers, even though we only had 2, Holden and Ford pulled back a lot from V8 Supercars, and that was when Car of the Future was first introduced or first talked about, and then purely for the reason of reducing costs to be competitive in V8 Supercars. Personally, I think we were very, even though some teams probably believe we were too fast introducing it, and it cost the teams a lot of money to try and get out there. There were other categories around the world that introduced a similar concept, a little bit faster, and one of them was DTM. But DTM had the involvement of Mercedes, BMW, and Audi, designing their Car of the Future, and then they're the ones, they were responsible for coming up with a single car formula. I personally think that we missed a bit of an opportunity. V8 Supercars was probably the benchmark touring car series in the world. Every other series in the world was sort of looking at V8 Supercars and trying to figure out what are they doing right that we need to learn from. And there was potential for V8 Supercars to be able to sell our formula and sell our cars and everything to the likes of New Zealand, South Africa, and other countries around the world. To sell, just go and sell our cars as a complete formula. And in a way, we've sort of missed out on that a little bit. But when you look at what we're achieving at the moment, and we've got Holden and Ford interested, we've got Mercedes already in there through Erebus and Nissan, and now we've got Volvo. One more manufacturer, and we're the biggest manufacturer touring car series in the world, and that's extraordinary for a country the size of ours to be able to to be able to attract those manufacturers to a sport that is is predominantly a national-based series.
Fair enough. You've you know what it's like to pay the bills. You've owned your own team, Brightech Motorsport. Can we afford, as a category, to make those big trips to places like the United States?
Well, we can. In those circumstances, it's usually up to the country or the promoter to help fund the teams to go there. We don't, as a category, go, gee, we'd like to go to Turkey, and then decide, right, we'll go to Turkey, and then try and make that work. Usually, it's V8 Supercars going out and going to a track in Mexico or going to a province in Mexico and saying, we'd like to have a race here, but here's what it would cost to come here. This is what we think we can do to improve the tourism to the local area, and this is what we can do, ticket sales, and then someone actually taking a gamble and underwriting that to make that move, and that's what happens in the Middle East. The Middle East do it as a tourism exercise. The promoter in Texas, for instance, he does it because he believes he can get bums on seats and then make money out of the ticket sales.
Yep.
And each sort of venue is a little bit different. And they have different ambitions to achieve out of the event. We've just got to prove that to make sure that the teams aren't at risk of costing them money to go to a new venue.
How's the feeling in the paddock? Is the extra manufacturers a case of the more the merrier?
Oh, for sure. I think it felt a little bit weird when we first opened it up to other manufacturers. It had been the same for close to 20 years. Holden and Ford, and then all of a sudden we got Nissan and Mercedes in there, and it was a little bit different, and also a little bit risky. There's having other manufacturers in there, I think, adds a little bit of risk to the series, because if the manufacturers aren't getting what they want out of it, and they start walking away, that can sort of start a little bit of a landslide. But at the end of the day, the rules in V8 Supercar mean that each manufacturer, as long as they come in there and they're aligned with a good team, and the team's doing a good job, the manufacturer's putting in the right support, then they should be able to be competitive, and that's the beauty of V8 Supercars. But it did sort of feel a little bit weird, but I think over time, it's becoming a lot more natural to have other manufacturers in there, and it's a great thing for V8 Supercars.
Finally, Jason, next weekend, Townsville. How are you feeling about your chances?
I think we're looking good. The car's been competitive on most of the tracks we've been to this year, and I think that our car it'll suit that sort of track. Townsville with the street track, and I'm looking forward to it. It's a great track. Who knows? The beauty of V8 Supercars at the moment is you've seen different winners this year, and it's been mixed up a little bit. Hopefully, we're one of the ones that can give it a pretty good shake next week. But we'll have to wait and see.
Jason Bright from Team BAC, thank you so much for joining us on SportzScene here this morning. It's been a real treat, mate.
Cheers, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Jason. Best of luck next weekend, and thank you very much. Congratulations on what you've done over there at Le Mans. We'll take a break here on SportzScene. Stay with us.